There's the intro.
Whole thing. None of that like long like here's the intro. It's just start with the burp.
Exactly. That's what you're here
Cue
for.
people in that the new episode started if they're just binging it.
Yeah.
The
Welcome to
burp
Buzzbait.
the burp signals new episode.
Welcome to Buzzbait. You're with something new. And today it's just Collin and I. Meg was nowhere to be found.
Lost.
But not excluded.
That's true. She will be part of this episode.
She will be a part of this episode.
In post.
And today's topic, we're talking about elderly people. Yeah. Meghan sent us I think it was like a Facebook reel or TikTok or something a while ago. And it was about this 70-year-old woman that ended up being pregnant.
Yeah,
And
yes.
yeah, we were all kind of, even she was like, I'm not pregnant. And the doctor's like, it's a baby. So it's like, so we were all kind of, I guess, just riffing off that for a little bit. So
yeah,
we
as
thought
we do with
we thought we'd talk about it.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, so Collin and I got a couple articles. Collin, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. So mine's a little old because if you look up news regarding old people, most of it is sad and about crimes being committed on them.
Or they're just dying.
It's or it's just like obituary, and it's like, that's not fun and quirky to talk about on the podcast. So I did find one. It's a little old. It's from November of last year. There was a program set up I'm double checking the area because I don't know if it like got widespread by now or if it just stuck with where it was, but it started in New York City apparently. And it is an initiative to get old people connected with like teenagers. Okay. So that way like the elderly people can feel like they have, somebody to talk to and connecting them to the events of the world. And it also is supposed to help like young people who maybe don't have elders in their life kind of like have that like sympathetic experience usually. And so it's like
give them like a role model.
Yeah, it's basically just like a system where it's just like, the teenager can have somebody to talk to about things they're dealing with, and the old person can kind of like get that connection of like having someone to talk to that isn't also retired and potentially grumpy all the time. But so there's a few ways that they also do it like through Zoom if one of the parties isn't capable of like meeting face to face. But the idea was, and this was the part that made it sound really interesting, is that it works well for them because on the one side, like they did it, like they brought it up to try and get old people to like sort of feel like there's no real like easy way. They wanted to like give older folks that like might not have family anymore or their family might not check on them like a reason to get up in the morning. And they found that this program helped because like now the older people, like they're regularly getting up, they're, showering, brushing their teeth, brushing their hair, and they might even like put on makeup and they'll like just touch up a little bit, and then they'll get ready for these meetings with whoever the young people are. And yeah, so the main result that they saw was like once they started feeling that they had an actual connection with these people and like this kid now like cared about them, they started leaving the house more often, they'd go out on trips, and it just like overall would improve. Like they would start taking better care of themselves because now they have this connection to somebody who like looks forward to seeing them or maybe even relies on them in some aspect.
Meg, what do you think?
I appreciate you asking what I think about that, Lara. Collin had recently said something that I think is a little problematic about how like genocide's okay if they're old or colonizers or something.
Meg, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, that's nice of you to say. I also think that this is a really good what do you say? Like extracurricular?
Yeah. Because like it's just kind of like the article does reference, it's like it's good for the older people because it gives them this connection to like what in the hell is going on, because God forbid an old person just open up social media and see some of the like new
Keep them
slang.
off
Yeah,
Facebook,
some of the new like
please.
slangs and trends that are out and about. Pretty sure if an old person just read the word skibbity with no reference, I think they'd just die.
Yeah.
Just scrolling
But
through Facebook, looking at like pictures of their grandkids, and somebody randomly posts "Skibbity Ohio Riz." The old person's brain is just gonna fucking start zapping itself.
I do think that's a really good program, and I hope that it, I guess, like expands
Yeah.
across America.
Well,
That'd
yeah,
be
that was the
nice.
thing that I was trying to check because the article, I mean, obviously, like this just started in like November, or at least like that's when
Right.
it started becoming
It's a
more
baby.
talked about. Yeah, so like I'm not sure if it's already started spreading out or
Like you said, I mean, a lot of the elderly that are in like nursing homes and stuff, like either don't have family that can care for them,
right.
family that just straight up doesn't care for them for could be a number of reasons, but
Right.
um or doesn't have any family left.
Yeah.
So, I think connecting them with the younger members of their community or even outside their community and offering kind of like a outsider perspective of things too
Yeah, that was one of the
is
other
great.
things they mentioned is that like with the success they've had so far, where did it go? Initially, yeah, so like one of the big things is like most of the teenagers that sign up, it's just like, yeah, like, you know, you just might like help them out, like play games with them or something. But like a lot of the teenagers have been like, wow, like this person's actually kind of rad, or like you learn like just interesting and odd things about them. But um so like it's oh, never mind. I thought it was already saying that like there was already people, but it was just saying like something about sports teams. I thought
Mm.
like I saw that it mentioned like Milwaukee, and I was like, damn, that's a bit of a stone's throw away from New York. So maybe it is already spreading out.
Um, I'll hop into my article
Yeah, dude.
because I know you were talking about the elderly. Mine doesn't focus too much on the elderly, but it has something to do with the elderly, with
I say
what we
they're
were
in
talking about
there
before, like
somewhere.
retirement homes, right? Exhausted 38-year-old woman moves into retirement home to slow down life pace.
That'll do it.
Which, I mean, I saw the title and was like, I didn't know you could just do that. Like you can
Yeah,
just like
I don't think retirement homes actually like have. I think it's just like case by case, but I don't think like they can. I don't think they can legally for like discrimination laws. I don't think they can say that like you have to be this old to be here.
like I could move into a retirement home and have somebody else wipe my ass. Like incredible. I didn't even think of that. But this doesn't take place in America. This is in China. Uh this woman, she just goes by Miss Yang in this
Mhm.
article, has been working as a screenwriter in the film and television industry for 11 years when the hectic schedule and extreme work volume started to take a toll on her health. She got hospitalized um, just because of all the stress.
Yeah, you said this was in
Uh,
Japan,
China.
China. I was gonna say because I know at least Japan is notorious for like um anybody that works like office or administration job. They are so aggressively overworked
Hmm.
that like there's literally a position in some companies where like they will exclusively hire people from different countries because they need somebody in that office to be like, hey, this is bullshit, because their culture is just so ingrained that like when somebody above you tells you to do something, like just get it done. So they
Yeah.
literally have started like they started realizing, I don't remember when it started officially, but like they realized that like, hey, our workers aren't doing great. So they would like hire specifically like foreign people to like just be in the office basically and do the job, and then like when stuff like that happens they'd be like, hey, that's basically abuse, don't do that.
Um, but this Miss Yang said that while browsing the internet for answers, she started reading about retirement homes and was like, this might be it. Um, she said that her work and rest is regular. She has access to a place to rest, basic medical care. She eats healthy every day. She pretty much just says, like, she's living the dream. She reads books, writes novels, hangs out with the elderly, and writes memoirs for them for free.
Hell yeah.
So, dude, I'm like, man, I might say fuck this and just move into a retirement home. I ain't got what bills besides like my car insurance will I have to pay. Are you kidding me?
That
I
is
actually
the
said to
one
my
thing.
sister, I actually said to my
No,
sister the other day, I was like, if my plane crashes, just know I'm cool with it just because it will mean I never have to pay a bill again. I never have to wash a dish again if I die.
truly. The one thing I know of them is that they, depending on where you go, they obviously can get real expensive.
I'm sure, like, if I were to go into a retirement home right now, just kind of for shits and giggles, my health insurance or anything isn't going to cover it.
Oh yeah.
So I'd be paying for it. I'd be paying for my stay there if they were to let a 25-year-old
Right.
woman, healthy 25-year-old woman, stay there. Um, I'd be paying that like with every paycheck that I get.
Oh yeah. And that might be the other thing is I don't I think part of like the actual requirement that they might have is that like you have to actually be retired. But
Mm,
I don't know how they'd be able to just like stop people from like just going and picking up like part-time jobs just to have some extra money, because
right.
I know that like at least with like social security stuff, like most old people that are on it, like it's barely enough to get by.
Yeah. Meg, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I've got a lot of thoughts on this. I actually think that it's really important to ensure that we're taking care of people who have been paying into the Social Security system their whole lives, and we take care of the people who need it most, in society. Um, but yeah,
I don't know if you should be saying that, Meg.
oh,
That's a little controversial.
really?
You might have to edit that out.
Mm.
Yeah, you might have to cut that one.
Might have to cut that one out. Ugh. Um, yeah, I guess we could get into.
The
Colin, you said that you used to work at a retirement home or used
no,
to
I
work with
used
the
to do
elderly,
as
right?
I used to do construction work for a company, and they did a lot of jobs for retirement homes. So like once a week roughly, I would probably be just sent off and be like, all right, you guys are going to go to this one, and you have to either install a new countertop, fix a cabinet, things like that. And there was one day we were installing all new countertops in one of the rooms, and like as we were going, because we had to basically be, we had to sign in, we had to get a badge, and we had to basically be escorted up to the room that we were working in. And then there's basically just like they'd show us, be like, this is the room, and like these are the things that need to be fixed. Thanks for the help. If you have any questions, like call down, like come on down and ask. And we're like, okay, cool, thanks. And one of the times we were just like, oh, like just trying to make conversation because we were doing a job on the third floor. And I was like, oh, like what's the weirdest thing that happens around here? And this fucking like 26-year-old girl just turns around, looks me dead in my eyes, and just goes, sometimes we get noise complaints from neighbors, and when we go to like tell them that they got to keep it down, we find out that there's like 8 people just fucking, like old people. When you're retired, apparently you don't have anything to do, so they just go
They
at
just
it.
fuck.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the elderly, like if you look at stats or like statistics of
Don't they
like
have like the highest rate of STDs or something
they have the
crazy?
highest rate of STDs and just in like reports of being like if you're 55 plus, you're having more sex than like a 20-year-old. Just like on average,
That's
which is
hilarious.
crazy.
Yeah. You hear about those guys who are just like, oh, dude, I fucked so many people. It's like, oh, yeah? I bet you ain't got nothing on fucking old Mr. McGillicuddy. But the other big things, like I've heard a couple like wacky stories, and like old people, it's so hit or miss with them. Because like I had one job where like we were working, and we had somebody like come into the room, like we're running saws and a couple machines to like trim stuff up, and we had somebody come in. It's like, hey, it's pretty loud in here. Could you guys keep it down? And we're like, we're almost done, so just give us like a couple minutes, and yeah, it'll be quiet again. He just goes, oh, thank you. He like grumbled something about us and walked back to his room. And then another time, like the countertop and like the area we had to fit it in was just so knocked out of proportion and out of square that like it took us forever. So we're
Mm-hmm.
just sitting there and like we're basically just staring at it, waiting for it to set so that we could clean it up a bit, make sure everything was all good, and go pack up and go back to the shop. So we're just sitting there and we're just shooting this shit with my coworker, and then this old lady comes in with just like a bucket, and she's just like, "Would you boys like some cookies?" And we're like, what?"
A
And like, I
bucket of
shit you not,
cookies?
like a fucking like a bucket. Like you can't see
Like those
it.
Home Depot buckets?
Not it's like one of the smaller ones. It's not quite like the stereotypical bucket, but like it wasn't much smaller than one.
Okay.
And it's just a bucket. She just full of cookies. And I was like, oh yeah, like I'll take some. And she was just like, yeah, just made them. And like I reached into that bucket. Yeah, those cookies were hot as it. Like this woman just baked a bucket full of cookies and was just walking around the building offering the bucket to people.
She has nothing to do other than bake and get railed, bro. Like there's nothing else for her to do.
And I was just like, yeah, I'll have one. And honestly, fucking top ten cookies. But yeah, it's just it's a bit weird. And then there was one person who like they were still, I think they still lived in their apartment, or in the that they had temporarily moved them because they were getting like the whole countertop replaced.
Hmm.
And so like they came in and they were just talking to us while we were working, and I was just like, oh, like do you have any, again, like I don't like awkward silence. I don't like talking to people, but I don't like not having any noise going on and knowing that someone is just there even less.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay.
I just like, while my buddy was doing a couple of the last second measurements and I was waiting for him to finish so I could go cut what we needed, I was just like, oh, so like, what do you like to do most around here? She was like, oh, I like to go for walks in the park and look at like the butterflies when it's the hatching season. I was like, or not hatching. What that is it hatching? Do they technically hatch out of their cocoons?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Whatever the process is called, it was like, yeah, I like to watch them fly around. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I was like, do your family come visit you often? And she just just nonchalantly just goes, no, my son died in a car accident a couple years ago. And I was like, okay. Because like
I some
it's the mix, like it's the similarities between being a newborn and a child and being old are like, as a newborn you got to wear diapers, you cry all the time, you're so emotional, everything's
you just
difficult.
say what comes
Yeah,
to your
you
mind.
as you get older you just start saying outlandish shit. You get to like the peak and you're like, my brain is fully developed, I am a healthy human being. And then you immediately start sliding back down that scale, and eventually you end up back in diapers saying outlandish shit to people.
At one of my old jobs, just you saying that, it just reminded me of something. At one of my old jobs, um, I it was Walmart. It was the grocery store Walmart, right? So obviously, there was always, it was like every month of being
Hmm.
like, we might get shot up. Like, here's what to do in case you get, in case someone starts shooting people in here. I always said, I said this to my manager. I said it to the guy who runs the whole store. I was like, just so you know, if like someone brings a gun and starts shooting, I'm not gonna escort nobody out of here. I'm booking it, bro. I'm booking it. I'm headed right to, it was right on I-81. So I was like, I'm just gonna run to the main road. I'm just gonna run to 81 and pray to God that I don't get hit. Right?
Hmm.
And this other guy, one of like the smart asses who worked there, one of many, he was like, oh, so what, you're just gonna go get hit by an 18-wheeler? And I'm like, if I die, I die,
Right.
you know?
Like, I hate to
So,
break it to
and
you, but at least I can die doing something that I was technically
I,
responsible for, instead of some bozo just
yeah,
using
instead of
me
some
for a kill
idiot.
streak.
Exactly. And so I was like, well, if I die, I die. And this guy, same dude, goes, well, no, there's a chance you could live. And my boss, my supervisor, he was a bit of an older man, he just goes, well, my son didn't.
Oh Oh my god.
And we were like, and me and this dude, we were like stunned in silence. And I was like, oh my god. And he just goes, yep, he got hit by an 18-wheeler. He didn't live. And you're like, all right, so I guess I'm dying.
That just reminds me of when I worked at one of my other construction jobs. I think I had 3 of them technically. I was working and it was a bit slow, so it was just me and one of the other guys, and every coworker I had for most of my time there was almost double my age at least.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the guys there was a Vietnam vet, and so we're just like, I was working with him and we're just loading stuff into our lumber warehouse in the back for just odds and ends stuff that we needed occasionally.
Yeah.
So we're just like loading everything, and like it's just quiet. We're just hanging out, getting the work done, trying to get to the end of the day. And randomly, just unprompted, just like the thought came into his head and he needed to get it out so it wasn't his problem anymore or something. And he just goes, "You ever watch somebody fall into a bungee pit before?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, no, I can't say I have. And he just goes, "Yeah, you're just like running through the woods and suddenly your buddy's not in front of you anymore." And I was like,
Can safely say that's never happened to me,
yeah,
bro.
I was like, is everything all right? And he just goes, "It's a bit tough to pick him up by his backpack." And I was like, "Oh my god." And then he like looked at me for a second. He like blinked a couple, like as if his brain was processing, and he goes, "I'm sorry about that," and just went back to loading the wood. And I was like, "Are you okay?" Mag, bleep out that name. I was like, "Are you all right, bud?" And he just goes, "Yeah, you didn't deserve to hear all that. I'm sorry. I'm having a tough day. I think I might go home after lunch today." And I was like, "Oh," I was like, "Okay."
All right. Don't fall in a bungee
Yeah.
pit.
I was like, "Let me know if you need anything."
Ooh, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, and like that just, I for some reason, I don't know if it's just the presence I bring to people. I've had so many military vets just out of nowhere just tell me the most fucked up things that happened to them while they were in the service, regardless of how old they were. Like I had somebody in my college class who was a few years older than me because of his deployment just start telling me something one day, and it got to the point where like I just got up and left. I was like, "I'm gonna go work on this somewhere else. I don't want to
Ugh.
hear any more of this."
Maybe it's you come off as too personable and they're like, this is someone that I could trust, instead of telling them to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And then imagine somebody with PTSD is coming up to you and being like, hey, here's some things that I struggled with, and you just go, shut the fuck up. Get out of my face. And no one will come out with any other stories to you then.
That's true. That would definitely be a quick way to shut it all down. But yeah, just back to the topic of old people, though. There was also, it's not funny if it's happening to somebody that you know, but there's been multiple reports of, I think they're called attendant. They might be nurses, like nurses or attendants. There's been multiple reports over the years of them being like arrested for organizing fight clubs with the folks at the home and like betting on who's gonna win. And it's like,
that's kind of awesome.
yeah,
I'm
like
not gonna
that, like
lie.
on one hand, like, yeah, that's rad as hell, but on the other hand, like if your grandparent is the one that lost the fight, that's probably embarrassing.
Oh, I wouldn't be able to look him in the face. Are you kidding? Be like, you got your ass whooped by fucking Susie? Come on. She's fucking skin and bones.
It's like, Grandma, you were alive before like women's suffrage. You should have been able to dodge those right hooks.
For real.
Like, what are you talking about? You told me the story about how you and Grandpa met. There's no way you let fucking Miss Rochelle knock your ass out.
Miss Jones in room 211, she kicked your ass. I'm gonna go handle that. I'm gonna handle it.
But like the wildest thing is like also like I have the thought, like, imagine just like being a visitor or something and like just showing up and just being like, yeah, like it's just so nice to see you. And then like down the hall, like like if you know the people in the home, it would just, I feel like it would just mess with my brain too much if I saw like somebody who like every time I've come to visit, she's been such a sweet old lady, and she's just like popping in a mouth guard and just absolutely
Oh yeah, she's
fucking
throwing
rocking.
elbows
Yeah, just
and
like pulling hair, biting people.
I
Like,
feel like
whatever I got to
an
do
out
for that extra cup of pudding tomorrow.
I feel like an even more outsider perspective, like you're going into this nursing home not knowing that this is going on, and
Right.
everyone's covered in bruises, bite marks, black eyes. Like they're missing teeth. They're missing teeth from their dentures, and
Right.
you're like,
Well, that was how one of them got caught. Is a family reported that like their I think it was their father, like their father, was being like abused in the home. So they did an investigation and they found out that like none of the attendants were putting hands on him. It was the other fucking residents, and that's when they found out that there was like a whole fight club, because they were just like, wow, like, yeah, like they went around and it was like, why are all like they've got to be abusing them, like so many of the residents here are like injured. And then so like they asked around a bit, and apparently like it was either one of the old people or one of the like staff members who maybe was down on their luck and not winning the bets, just
mm-hmm.
like narked on it, and was just like, oh no, we just like every like once or twice a week we'll have like a fight night, and everybody just kind of brawls, like you organize it, like there's betting. And so then they were just like, okay, we're gonna stop doing that now.
My grandmother, my dad's mom, she had to go in a retirement home. She had dementia. Like we couldn't keep an eye on her all the time,
Right.
but she couldn't live
Yes.
alone anymore. So she had to go to a retirement home. And my whole life, she was always like this sweet, kind old lady, never laid a hand on anybody. She gets to the retirement home, and all of a sudden, it's like a fucking personality switch. And she is yelling at people, and she
Oh
is
god.
fighting people. She had this like teddy bear or something. This is just a story from my father. She had like a teddy bear that she just grew like really attached to at the
Mm-hmm.
home. And then another old lady tried to take it, and my grandma was just like, I'm gonna beat this bitch up, and did, to get that fucking teddy bear back. That's how serious it was.
That's wild.
It's crazy. Meg, do you got any stories?
I do. I have one that I think is really important and, emotionally impactful for
Wow,
me.
that's so interesting. Thank you for that.
Um,
uh yeah, there's so much like, and then like not to mention when I was a kid and would go to family reunions, old people are real wacky,
Oh,
especially when they've been doing nothing but drinking beer and reminiscing on old times all day.
especially when it's like you don't know that person and they're like, but I changed your diapers. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I totally remember that, bro.
I didn't quite
Totally.
have that because the family reunions I went to were with my dad, and I didn't really like his family. The only people that interacted with like my family directly as kids, like babies, were
Mm-hmm.
his mom and dad.
Okay.
So like once I was old enough and my dad started inviting me to family reunions, it was basically just like the main people that I knew and interacted with were my uncle that usually hosted it on his property, and we'd always go camping there, so I was familiar with like him, his wife, and his two kids, my cousins. um I call him my uncle because that's just how I've always been introduced to him, but he's technically my dad's uncle. But we didn't want to jump through all the hoops of figuring out like how that extended family works. So it was
Oh,
just everybody was
yeah.
just uncle.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um, but yeah, so it was just stuff like that, and then yeah, like they just there was one point where I was just, because we would camp out after the reunion with a few of the other people. So it's just like as the night went on and like people with children started like leaving, then like things would get a little bit silly. Like one of them told me a story about how when he was in high school, and back then you could just like have guns in your vehicle because nobody cared, it was fine.
Right, right, yeah.
He was telling me that he got to school one time, like parked his car, and he was about to like leave for their lunch break, and so he gets into his truck and he sees a 12-point deer on the soccer field, and he just fucking
He starts
shoots that
blasting.
motherfucker. And then like somebody came out like running like there's a gunshot, and he's just already out in the field. He's dragged the deer to like the soccer goal, tied it up, and just like took a tarp out of his truck and is just skinning this deer in the like school soccer field.
That's crazy.
And I was like, what happened? And he goes, I just promised, I think he said it was the gym. He goes, I just promised the gym teacher some of the venison if he just let me finish what I was doing. And he just said, all
Oh my
right.
god.
He's like, you don't have to be at class, right? And he goes, no, my lunch break just started. I've got like 40 minutes. And so the teacher was like, all right, cool. Yeah, just let me know when you got it done, and I'll either swing by or you can bring it to my office.
Not a single person is like, 1, let's stop this, or 2, let's just put a tarp down so he doesn't get blood and
Oh,
guts
no, that's
everywhere.
what he did. He got a tarp from his truck, and
oh, okay.
yeah, it was just,
I was like, dude,
he didn't
blood all
have
over this
he
field.
didn't have anything else to use, so he was just he like tied its feet like to the goalpost.
Okay, I see now.
And I was like, how did you get it to stay up there? And he goes, well, luckily it was a 12 point, but he wasn't the heaviest deer I've ever shot. And I was like, and he goes, because I didn't have like the hook that you're supposed to use that pins it up there. So he just he tied the tightest knot he could to hold that some bitch up. And then another year, this one wasn't old people related, but I woke up the day after the reunion at 5 a.m. to my cousin and a friend that he had just brought around because they've been friends since they were kids. They were both firing rifles into the pond, and we were like, what are you doing? And he goes, I saw a couple turtles and I want to make some soup. And we're like, it's 5 a.m. Fucking go back to sleep. What are you talking about?
There was a video that I saw, this was a while ago, but it was some dude, half of me was like, that's rad as hell. The other half was like, what the fuck are you doing? Because it was this guy and he was in like a speedboat or something. And so the fish were coming out of the waves and he just had a shotgun and he was just blasting the fucking fish as they came up.
That's wild.
And it's like, you would see the fish for like half a second, and then the next thing, it was like just parts.
Right, yeah.
It was just chunks.
Like the only way that that's an effective way to go fishing is if you're out there like going after sharks or something crazy.
Well, I did a little bit of digging because I'm like, why the fuck is he blasting these fucking fish like that? And it's like the fish are invasive.
Oh.
They're like they're some kind of invasive species, and so it's like he was given permission to just fucking kill as many as possible, and he's like, well, I'm gonna make it look as cool as I can.
Yeah. It's
which,
like
hey,
somebody sent me a video of like it was everybody was like, oh, I wanted to see like what animal lived in this hole that I found on my property, and I wanted to like see what it was. And like the way the video was set up, it sounded like it was gonna be like some fucking horrific deformed creature of the deep. And just like it's just a cute like weasel, and then everybody in the comments is like, did you fucking kill it afterwards? And everybody like people are like getting so upset. It's like, I can't believe you guys would kill this animal. And so I can't remember what it's called now, but like I looked it up and I was like, oh, this thing's invasive as hell.
Yeah.
And like initially like it's an invasive species, so obviously it's inherently like dangerous and bad, but like normally they're not really that big of a problem. But the area that like this was in, and this specific, I think it was a weasel or something. It specifically will pretend to be wounded so that birds will try to like dive it and grab it. And as soon as it like senses it will just turn, and it's got like fucking claws, and it just grabs the bird.
That's kind of smart, actually. Yeah. That's like,
and like because of like the area that it was specifically being talked about was that like the birds have never had like natural predators, so they're kind of just like, oh yeah, there's something I can eat on the ground, and they'll just dive for it. And this fucking weasel, just grabs them.
Hell yeah, dude.
That's and apparently the weasel is very good at, as I say, the weasel is apparently very good at not losing the fight. So the bird population is going down much faster than the weasel population.
Hell yeah.
It's the same thing like when I found out that I almost said Zangoose. Mongoose. Yeah. Mongoose and I think it's specific. I don't know if it's like just general snakes or if it's specifically like,
oh, it's a Saviper.
Yeah, but like that's the whole thing about like their rivalry in the game, is that it's because mongoose, and I think it's like king cobras specifically, but they just made it a general snake.
Yeah.
Mongoose and like cobras will like they actively death battle, and because of it, like mongoose will survive their bites sometimes. Nora just fell over.
Nora,
Is there a ghost? Is
girl,
there a ghost in your apartment? What the fuck?
low key think there is. I be seeing some shit that I'm like, I think that was a person. Like I come into my apartment and I'm like, is someone sitting on my couch in the dark? And then I turn
Right.
on the light and I'm like,
Yeah,
what did I just see?
that shit always freaks me out. Where I'm just like, I was like, even living in the apartment that I live in now, I was like, this place is new. There's no ghosts here. Like,
Well, where I'm living, it's a really old high
yeah.
school. It's just a school
Oh,
building. So it could definitely be like some kid died here and he
yeah.
just wants to play with my plushies that I have on display. Meg,
That
can you
could be.
please show the plushies? Thank you. Meg, the goat of this episode, low
For
key.
real. She might not be here with us physically, but both in post edits
And spirit.
and spirit, Meg is
Spirit, she's
really
here.
helping out with this episode.
So I did look up, getting back on topic of elderly and retirement homes, I did look up, I'm like, could I just go to a retirement home and live there? Um, and there's nothing like specifically that I could find that says you can or can't.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like it's a weird thing with like discrimination laws that they can't technically just say like if you're not at least this old you can't be here,
yeah,
because obviously like some people are successful, smart, and a bit savvy and they're able to retire much earlier.
right. Because I looked up, um, I have a retirement home and then also like a 55 plus like community,
Yeah.
right? So it's like to live in a retirement home, it says you typically need to meet certain age requirements. And most retirement communities require at least one person living in the home to be 55 or older. However, it depends on like, specific rules, guidelines, medical stuff, whatever. Um, and so then I went to uh New Horm fucking Christ, newhomesource.com, where they have this whole site of like um just like what is a 55 plus community, who can
Mm-hmm.
live there, like the stats on it, everything like that. And one of the questions is, can I rent a property in a 55 plus community to someone who is under 55? And they write that it's a gray area.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all they got.
Yeah, they can't like hard line just be like you're too young to live here, because that just opens them up to getting some nasty lawsuits. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously to some degree they're going to try and find like some genuine reason to deny you if they think that like
If
for
you're gonna be
whatever,
like too rowdy
yeah,
or
something like
cause
that.
problems, something like that, yeah. But
It does
it
what
is
it
what it
do,
is.
Yugi. Oh my god, there's somebody at work. Their store name on our website is Jonathan Yugi.
Oh
And
my god.
I was like, damn, dude, is this like the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure where the new Yu-Gi-Oh main character is actually just a small American white boy? No fancy card game nonsense, no like secretly being part pharaoh. It's just Jonathan Yugi.
It's Jonathan Yugi. Typical your classic American
He's
kid.
here to play his children's card game and become the best in the world.
Yu-Gi-Oh! They just came out with a classic. Their what they call it, early days collection or something, and it's like all their old like Game Boy, I think some
Oh,
GameCube games as well.
I didn't know
And a
Yu-Gi-Oh
lot of
got to
them
the
are
GameCube.
like, yeah, and a lot of them are like games that didn't even like this is their first English translation, like official American release. I was looking at getting it because they got fucking dungeon dice monsters on that bitch.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah,
It's
dude.
so weird looking at like things that I used to watch as a kid, because I mean one of the big ones, like you and I have talked about it before, where it was like, yeah, as a kid like I loved Ben 10. And then you were like, oh, like which one was your favorite? And I was like, what the fuck do you mean? Like Ben 10. And then like that wasn't it was just I forgot that the show where like he's older was like a set. For some reason I just thought it was like the equivalent of like Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, where it's just like the next series but the same
Mm.
characters. And then I started looking it up and I was like, why the fuck did they make so many Ben 10s? Like I watched him as a kid and I watched the one where like they started redeeming Kevin. And I was like, but what the
Peak.
fuck?
So you watched Peak.
Yeah, I was like, but what the fuck is the rest of this? What are we doing here?
You could pretty much, I mean, well, I watched the first 3 series, so like Ben 10, Alien Force, and Ultimate Alien.
Yeah.
And then I stopped there. I didn't watch any. Well, okay. I watched a little bit of Omniverse, but Omniverse was just so different than the rest, and I was like, fuck that.
It's also how I feel with Dragon Ball, where it's like, dude, I love watching Dragon Ball Z as a kid, and then they're like, oh, are you watching it now? And I was like, what the fuck do you mean watching it now? And then it was another thing where like I looked it up, and like fucking like every 2 or 3 years, it was like a new Dragon Ball series came out, and I was like, guys,
Yeah, I think they just had one, like a new series of it just end now.
I think the last one was like the big like Universal tournament or whatever, where they were fighting to keep their reality from being destroyed.
I'm
Because
talking the one it just ended. They're like they got turned into like kids.
oh, I have not seen that one. The last one that I like actually like occasionally would check in on, because it was basically just like the whole premise was just like, let's just do all the cool fights. That's what people like. And so it was basically just like I looked into the story and it was like, yeah, like all those like galactic beings and gods would just like show up to this tournament and be like, all right, cool. And then it was like, if you lost, like your entire reality might just be destroyed. Like your universe just gets fucking wiped.
Okay, so Mortal Kombat is what I'm understanding here.
Yeah, kind of.
That's crazy.
Very similar premise. Yeah, when I saw it, when I like was watching, I was like, oh dude, like this is so cool. Like it's just like a fighting tournament. Like this is awesome. Like just the strongest people from each like area. And I was like what's the reason? Like, is this just on for shits and giggles, or is there a reason for it? And then like, yeah, in one of the episodes, like one of like the last fighter of one of the teams loses. And I think it's implied that they just like killed their god and destroyed their universe. And I was like,
the stakes are high.
I was like, what?
You cannot mess up. That's crazy. I personally have never interacted with anything Dragon Ball ever.
I haven't
in my
like
life.
fully like actually sat down and watched it since I was a kid, because like that was just what I used to do, and like my mom would drop me off at my grandma and grandpa's house and just be like, oh, let's watch. It was like Dragon Ball Z or Zaboomafoo.
When I was at my grandma and grandpa's, if I went to my dad's parents, it was Captain Planet.
Mm-hmm.
If
Classic.
I went to my mom's parents, who they actually had like cable, I would watch like Lazy Town. I remember that one being a big one, and like Johnny Test.
Yeah, unfortunately, by the time Johnny Test was out, I think.
And Totally Spies. I loved Totally Spies.
Are we the same age, Laura? Am I older than you? Are you older than me?
I'm 25.
Oh my god. It's like a whopping 2 years, I think. Yeah,
I just became friends with this girl that I work with, right? Like we
because I'm going on 28 this year, so but yeah, I was like, what do you mean? Like I was like, by the time Johnny Test was out, like I was already like middle school.
I'm a little baby.
Sorry. Go ahead.
But yeah, no, there's this girl that I became friends with at work. I knew that she was like 30 something. I just assumed that she was like 30, 31, right? I was like, oh, okay, you're only like 5 years older than me. Like you look really young. Like, cool, whatever. And then she said her age the other day, and I was like, oh, you're like 11 years older than me. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like the small shock. Like I knew I was like the young kid at the shop that I was working at, but it was just like slowly actually like working with each of my coworkers, and I was like, yeah, so like the first couple I tried to be subtle and nice about it, but like after those two, I was like, hey, I'm just gonna come out. How fucking old are you? And it was all just like, I'm 49, 56. We had one guy who was like 70 something. I was like, what the fuck?
What you should have done is had a picture of like a stegosaurus ready and then be like, did you know him in high school? Like, that's what you should have done. I did that to a younger girl that I worked with. I mean, she was only a couple years older than me. Um but she would always talk about how like old she is or felt. Meanwhile, she was only like 29. So I
Right.
did that. I pulled up I pulled up a picture of like a velociraptor and I was like, "Hey, did you know him?"
I did do that a couple of times because one of them asked me for help after work, and he was like, I'll give you a ride home if you help me," because they like had a party or something, and he needed to return all the tables and chairs that they rented. And I was like, yeah, no
Mm.
problem. So I'm sitting there helping him, and like obviously it wasn't that like hard, and I was just like, you couldn't do this by yourself? And he just goes, I'm pretty sure that I graduated from high school. And I, before he could finish his sentence, and I was like, before the meteor hit and killed the dinosaurs? And he just goes, maybe I won't take you home. Maybe I'll just fucking drop you off in town.
Do you remember what it was like when you first found fire?
It's just it's one of those things where like at first it's like it feels just weird thinking back now, like how like nervous I was, but like yeah, now I'm just like I don't give a shit who I work with. I'd fucking clock in, do my job, go home. We can socialize. We can socialize if you show that you're not some unpleasant fucking creature.
On God. I'm so used to always being the youngest in like my friend groups and like work and everything that like when I find people that are younger than me, I'm like, you don't fucking exist. Like, I'm the youngest. I was the last born. Fuck out of here.
Yeah, there was oh god, what was it? There was somebody, oh, that's what it was. We were hanging out in college with a bunch of my fraternity brothers and stuff. And I remember we were just hanging out, and it was like, hey, do you guys want to go to the bar afterwards? And from like the fucking recesses of my brain and somewhere off in the darkest corner of the room, forgotten, one of my brothers goes, I'm only 19. And like me and one of my other brothers, like just somehow perfectly in sync, just like grabbed each other's shoulders.
Just
And we're like,
oh, we only have each other.
we were like, what did he just say? And so like I remember like I stopped for a second and I was like, what? I was like, what? When's your birthday? And he like told me, and he was like, I don't remember the actual day because I didn't actually care. I just wanted to be dramatic in the moment. But he was like, whatever month, whatever day, and then he started the year with 2. And I just fucking like my buddy and I again somehow perfectly in sync, as if the brain cell is just pinging back and forth super fast. So we're just sharing the thoughts, just like dig into each other's shoulders, and we're like, what? A 2? That's not. He's not supposed to start with a 2. He can't be that young. That's a child. And so then we were just like, and so then one of my other brothers, like, because he and I just started being dramatic as hell, like, and it's just a whole thing. And so one of our other brothers just goes, well, good news, you don't have to be 21 to get into the bar, and they do have non-alcoholic drinks. And he just goes, oh, that's cool. And then like I just like my buddy and I just couldn't stop. We just kept looking at each other and be like, are we old?
Are we old?
Are we boomers now? Are we out of touch? Are we no longer hip and with it?
Oh man. Speaking of old, I think that's where we're gonna wrap up this episode. We went way off
Listen,
topic there, but
we
you can
at the very least going forward, we're gonna start strong.
you can
Previously,
only
we
talk
just
about old people for so long before it gets sad and tiring.
honestly, and also like everything in some way relates back to old people.
Not to throw them under the bus here, but they are kind of the cause of all our problems.
As
So,
that's true.
you know.
I did see one of the while I was going through like looking for like weird news. Somebody tried to propose a bill that anybody over a certain age, which I think was like it's the joke that people make, but it was like anybody over a certain age you need to like go like retake your eye exam and go like do a refresher course for like the 5 hour Like they weren't like you have to like redo the driver's test yet, because they were not really sure if that one was going to be like crossing a line and get it shut down immediately. Basically just reintroducing a bill that like you have to go do like some refresher training to keep your license after a certain age. And then there was somebody else who was just like, hey, if you're older than this point, you should not be allowed to vote in the country anymore. And I was like, I mean, like, on one hand, like, maybe, but on the other hand, like, a lot of what gets voted on and things that the government controls affects them directly, because it's like their
Yeah,
retirement
like
shit. I don't think you should
Medicaid
be
and
allowed. I
shit.
don't think you should be allowed to be in the government after a certain age, but that's never going to get passed.
Yeah, because everybody in the government right now is beyond that age that
Like,
I
yeah,
know
like
damn well you and I are thinking.
the number of pictures I've seen where it's like our senators are like fucking, they just look like they're just like, fucking sleeping, and it's like,
I was gonna say they're sleeping
yeah.
during like important meetings, or they'll be at an important meeting, they'll be talking, and then just be like,
Yeah, and they'll like their
and then just
eyes,
stand there. Ugh.
their eyes will like gloss over for a second, they'll blink, and they'll just be like, what's going on? And they'll like look, and so you can tell that fucking person's lost. They don't know what the hell just
They
happened.
don't know where they are.
And it's just,
Like,
but yeah.
anyways,
Everything goes back to old people, either because they made something cool and people still enjoy it, or because they're ruining something cool and everybody hates them for it.
or because they're cringe and they're trauma dumping to you. So
Yeah.
that is where we're gonna end the episode. We hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to follow and like us for updates on when we
keep it
we post.
youthful. Do not get old.
Keep it youthful. Yes.
The older you get, you just, everything goes wrong. The only good thing about getting old is you start getting mad puss. You get laid.
Honestly, yeah. The
Crushing
key to staying young forever is to never let your inner child die.